Hello everyone, welcome to the Northland Artists Conversation. My name is Mark Kelly. Thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. 2024 has been a really interesting year for us. We've made a few changes, which for us has actually been really, really good. Something we needed to do. We were kind of just steamrolling through 2023, hoping for the best. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the changes that we've made. Just kind of, I guess, staggering out the content as well. But if you're here, thank you. Whether you've found us through the traditional means or through some alternative platforms, you can find us for visuals on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, Northland Artists Conversation. For audio, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, Northland Artists Conversation. That's where we are, that's where we live, that's where you can find us. So hopefully you found us through one of those spots. For all our guests, 2024 is starting off with an absolute bang. It's been very, very cool. So thank you for all of you that have come on, for all of our past guests as well. It's been great. But if you would like to be on, hello at northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. Super simple, just reach out to us. It's been a really, really crazy time here. We're sort of moving. Well, this is going to come out after Easter, so hopefully you didn't have too much chocolate. I make no guarantees. But it's been a good time. It's been a good time. It's starting to get a bit colder. Man, the nights are starting to get a bit colder as well, which is interesting. I'm almost having to put on that second duvet now. But yeah. No, it's interesting. I'm going to flick to my camera. Tonight's guest, I really liked the artist so much, I actually bought a piece. All right. So if you're listening to this, I'm holding up the Kiwi version of the Vitruvian Man, made famous by Leonardo da Vinci, and this is Wald Foot Rot, which is hilarious. So the reason it's funny is producer Andrew took it upon himself to actually write his name on the whiteboard so I don't make it. You'll hear a couple of mistakes during the podcast in the rapid fire. It's a couple of little whoopsies there. So I'm going to read it, make sure I get it right. Graeme Lee Main. Who am I kidding? Of course it's Graeme Lee Main. We were lucky enough to meet Graeme at Artbeat 2024, and he was so cool. We were able to book him as a guest on the spot. Such a nice guy. He has got some unbelievable stories. He calls it eclectic, and it really is an eclectic journey. We talk about, growing up and his interest in art and photography, and then how he kind of transitioned out of art and into sort of more real life. And then all the way through to having shots with, was it Tom Cruise? Yeah. Karaoke with Tom Cruise. Shots with Brad Pitt. My bad. At different times, not the same time. But yeah, go figure. This is a podcast you're going to want to sit down and either watch or listen. So anyway, enough of my talking and mad ramblings. Let's sit down and have a conversation with Graeme Lee Main. That is ridiculous. I mean, that's a lot of...
It's a lot of
accidents and injuries in such a short space of time.
I hope I don't jinx you or your team.
No, look, I mean, Editor Lee will have a crash on the way home, and Albert will end up stabbing producer Andrew. We'll be fine. He'll just be like, I'm not putting up with your shit anymore. But yeah, no, we'll be okay. Find some wood, touch it very quickly.
Yeah, I've got to get home too.
Yeah. There's wood on the wall. Graeme, thank you very, very much for coming in and sitting down with us, man. This is very cool.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I mean, it was always going to happen. We've always taken pride in getting local artists from like as wide a variety as possible. So when Andrew and I were doing the rounds at Artbeat this year, and Andrew said to me, "Bro, come check this out. This is something that you'll love. We've got to get this guy on the podcast." I was like, "Oh yeah, that'll be interesting." Our definitions of interesting tend to vary. I like metal, he likes hip hop. he is the charcoal to my toothpaste. And and he showed me, and then sure enough, yeah, definitely. So I was, I was really, really stoked because, we were talking about this before. You take classic images that are very familiar, and you repurpose them and put your own spin and interpretation on things. So that for me is very, very cool. And for those of you that are watching, I've got a little treat that I'm going to show everyone later. So it's amazing. We'll talk about copyright and stuff. Shh. But what I always like to do is I always like to go right back to the very start, because you have led a ridiculously interesting life. Now, for you, it probably just seems like, oh yeah, I did this and that and these things, but you've had such a wide career, but everything sort of had this one overarching thing to it, which is being creative with people. So I want to go right back, and I mean way back, to school. Yeah. For some people it's good, for some people it's bad. How was it for you?
I really enjoyed school up until probably 15. I think I had a great time. I had good friends. I probably didn't apply myself as much as I should have.
Yeah.
Unless it was a subject I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So,
Classics for me.
Yeah. So for me, Whangarei Boys High School, I loved art. I was the top student in art, and history were my two go-to subjects. I must have screwed up as a 12-year-old, when you used to do a test to determine which level you went in at high school.
Oh, yep.
I can't have done very well in that test because I was in the bottom level
right.
first year of high school.
Okay.
And, at the time, I thought, oh, that's kind of sucky, because all my friends were learning Latin and French and classics, and those are things that I was really interested in.
Yeah.
And I was learning Māori art, mythology, carving, which was also equally interesting, but I didn't really appreciate it at the time.
Yeah.
And I did thrive in those classes. I really enjoyed it. I think I must have done pretty well because one of my tutors laminated my mythology project.
Oh, wow.
And showed other students for the next few years.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. That really ticked my mythology and history box.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
a really big fan of those.
Yeah.
I did a lot of art in the presentation as well. And yeah, I think in hindsight, or looking back, it's that year of doing Māori studies really prepared me for my career in tourism.
Yes.
Which came up later.
Yeah, came
because I knew all the stories and the Māori history, as it was taught back then anyway, of New Zealand, and that really enabled me to draw my passengers into conversations about mythology and stories. And
having done as well in art as you did, was that something that you'd always had a passion for? And can you remember sort of the earliest moments where you were like, well, I mean, apart from when you grab a crayon and draw on mum and dad's walls.
Yeah, I can't remember much.
I'm the
before...
only one that did that. Okay, cool.
Probably. I can't remember a lot before like 10, but I do still have a screen print I did as probably a 9 or 10-year-old, where you used to do the cutout of paper and screen print.
Yep.
I've still got that T-shirt. It's very small.
Wow.
In a box somewhere at home, and. I still remember some of the art I did. We were talking about Foot Rock Flats earlier, I remember doing cooch bowling to wall as a sort of a protest at the underarm incident in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I've always been into art. It sort of all stopped when I left school, put the pens and the paint away, and didn't pick it up for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, even sketching or anything.
So really nothing.
Photography.
But that was the only one that you kind of kept going through?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, we've had some great guests on the podcast, and you are actually not the first person to say that. We've had some guests on where they're like, I excelled at like sculpture, for example, and then, but I also did well in law, and then high school finishes, and they go, I'm going to go do law.
Yeah.
And then they come back to doing what they loved, 30, 40 years later, and it's like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of love to, go back in time and take that decision over again. But, you had pressure from parents, and you had pressure from how do I make money.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, university would have been free.
Yep. Yes.
But in that year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't even think of art as an option, like going to art at university or Elam School, and also didn't think I was good enough for those. So, yeah, it didn't even cross my mind.
Because I'm 49 this year, so we're of a similar sort of age.
I'm 56 in August.
Okay,
so
a few years difference.
Yeah,
not a lot.
Yeah, it is annoying that I didn't do the university thing. I really wish I had of at the time, because I wouldn't have had a student debt that I'm still drip feeding off to this day. Kids at home, don't ignore your student debt for 20 years when you're overseas.
No,
okay?
pay it. Just pay it. Get rid of it. So you're high school. You're hitting fifth form.
Yeah.
Which is the equivalent of year.
Oh, I don't even know now.
Year
modern.
Year 11. Thank you, producer Andrew. Year 11. And then what changed at that point?
If I could point that down and tell
like
myself
say, was this
off,
one moment?
Yeah, I can tell you when it was. I was doing a 3-hour exam on history, which was my favourite subject. We had to do 5 essays. I got through the first 3 in like no time. And something in my brain, chemistry or something, switched, and I got an attitude and got up and walked out and didn't even write my name on the top of the 3rd essay topic. I got 49% for those first 3.
Out.
I would have just written one sentence, I would have passed. Annoyed to this day.
That is crazy.
Yeah, my history teacher wasn't too pleased either. But yeah, neither was I. I still kick myself for that.
So was it that moment, like, do you think it was, in your head you just went, fuck it?
I think so. Yeah, I think I just had a teenage attitude,
Yeah.
For probably the first time ever, I was a pretty good kid, and something switched, and it's annoying. It's annoying to me still. Because I truly love history. I could see myself in tweed with elbow patches, smoking a pipe in some highbrow thing in England. Teaching history.
Having your what do they call it when
my Batman coming to fetch my slippers for me.
And your is it conservatorship where you or your oh god, what is the word? Where your tenure?
Yes.
Being a tenured professor at Oxford.
history, art. They were my go-tos, and annoyed still to this day about that.
Okay, so I'm dying to know, once you walked out, how big was that change? Was it like, did you start going, I'm going to bunk school, I'm going to start drinking, I'm going to smoke?
No, I didn't.
Middle finger to the teachers?
Never smoked. I did bunk school thanks to Bruce Kennedy.
Bruce!
He was my best mate, and he convinced me to bunk, and the first time I'd ever done it, and that probably was the end of my school career. I sort of went away from there, and it's annoying. I should have stuck with it more, and now I've got kids. They won't be bunking school. No.
Or is it wagging now? Do we call it wagging? I don't know. Skipping, playing hooky. Fifth form for me was the year as well. I discovered bunking through a friend of mine, Damien Walters, and then I found out I could get away with it, and then I learnt how to forge mum's signature on notes. And then... Anyway, we'll move on. Don't want to give away too many trade secrets. Okay, so when did you sort of finish up with school? Did you actually make it through?
I think I started sixth form from memory, but left
Not long
not
after
long after it.
Yeah.
I think I got a job, and money and stuff started coming in. It wasn't a great job. It was just a salesman in a Mackay Electrical, I think it was called at the time, and I didn't fulfill anything in me, so I think I lasted a year. But in school, probably one of the formative things that happened to me regarding art, my fifth form teacher gave us a project. We had to go and photograph a thing which formed the basis of our school cert project. Right.
Yep.
I'd never had my hands on a 35mm camera before. I'd done a lot of photography, but it had always been just the little skinny ones, 110s.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and the cameras that my mother had. So I got this 35mm camera, and I loved it. I fell in love with it straight away. It was part of me.
Yeah.
It just felt like it belonged in my hands. And not long after that, I bought my own camera, and I started doing portraits of anybody and everybody. And even when I was at Mackay Electricals, I think I was doing wedding photos, and I was probably only 17, 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
I did the models for Miss Northland competition, so that was pretty incredible. I think I had 30 late teenage girls, beautiful, tall, come to my house.
That would have been
photos.
That's a hard life.
Yeah.
I mean,
came to my garage and had their photos.
How'd you get through?
So I had some work published. I did some hairdressing model shots and stuff like that, and it was fun. And did quite a few weddings, and weddings were quite lucrative.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't charging a lot, they were quite lucrative. And just built up and up and up my camera equipment. By that stage, I'd moved to Langwood's Photo Centre, so it was not taking photos for them, but you saw the world through developing other people's photos.
Were you a developer?
I sat at a machine and pushed the exposures on a machine, thousands of films every week, and for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I worked at a camera house.
Yep.
And I worked for Kodak as well. So for those of you young people out there, rolls of film, you couldn't just snap off 2 million selfies and go, well, I'm happy with that. You either had 12, 24 or 36 shots, and that was it. So you had to make sure that all of your composition was correct right from the word go. Films would go in, and you would actually have someone sitting there. You'd open up the film in a dark box, and then someone would sit there in a machine, literally just feed it along, and you adjust everything and then print it to paper. The good old days.
Yeah, I think it's a
lost art.
It is a lost art, especially the photography part, because you're right. I took your photo just before.
We did, yeah.
And I don't know, I took 10 photos.
Yep.
In the old days, I would have perhaps taken 2, because that's 2 out of my 36.
Yeah.
That's expensive. That's
Yep.
Costs me money. It costs me money to develop it and print it. I was in the lucky position that I worked in a photo lab, so
yes,
I got heavily discounted.
Yeah,
and but I wish I had 10% of the money back from that I spent on film and developing.
Oh yeah,
wow! I have boxes of negatives in my loft.
Yeah,
that no one will ever see.
Why don't you get them scanned to digital?
It would take me a lifetime just to do that, I think. But if anybody had their photos taken in the 80s and 90s, hit me up and I'll see if I can find them for you.
Okay, so you're working in the camera store. You're sort of starting to explore more with your photography style, because everyone's got a style, right?
Yeah.
What do you think your style was in those days?
I've always been attracted to portraiture. So
Right. Okay.
I love the human face. I love the way light plays on the face, the expression changing, just the slightest minutia, from when I took yours. The serious, I'm cool, to getting you to laugh, and it just changes a person's face.
Yeah.
It's the same person, but it's completely different.
Yeah.
In that fraction of an instant, and that's the thing you're chasing as a photographer, is to capture that instant. And often when the person lets their guard down, when you see it in the lens, and you see it when they're trying to be what they perceive as the look. They look in the mirror and they think, I look good,
I look cool.
I look cool. That's the look I want to do when I'm having my photo taken. And then you can, just by a word or a phrase or a smile or whatever, break that a little bit. And that's really cool. And I think that's a part, I don't want to say my charm, but it's a part of my ability as a photographer, is just to...
It's a skill, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's something you can learn.
Yeah.
Is just to be relaxed enough to make that person relax.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a project called the Iwi Project, where I take photos of people all over the world. I'm lucky enough to travel quite a lot in my life, and so I always take my camera. I've got it just down there.
Yep. Yeah. You brought your camera with you, which is great.
And I approach people randomly in the street that I think are interesting. I engage with them. I talk to them. We have a very shortened version of what we're doing now, where I talk to the people and I just find out a little bit about their lives, take their photo and get a quote from them, a quote that's personal to them, a favorite saying or expression or song lyric or biblical text or whatever it is that floats their boat, basically. And the purpose of it all is to show that, whether you're from Whangarei or you're from Timbuktu or somewhere in between, that we may look slightly different, but inside we all think and want the same things in life.
Okay, so what's your favourite quote then?
It's probably a John Lennon quote, because he paraphrased somebody else. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
I like that. Yeah. There's a few nods in the studio, so we all do seem to agree. Yeah, definitely.
It's from the song "Beautiful Boy."
Oh, right. Now that's a lovely song.
Yeah, it's a song I sung to my daughter. I changed the lyric to be "Beautiful Girl," for probably every night for the first 2 years of her life.
Oh wow. And for me, I remember that song in a film called Mr. Holland's Opus.
Yes.
He sings that to his son, who's deaf, if I remember rightly. It was very hearing impaired. Amazing film, Richard Dreyfuss. So, as I said, your background is very extensive.
Eclectic.
Great word. I love how that just sort of flows. Eclectic. So you said that you were you'd worked in tourism.
Yeah, so I sort of when I was 21, my parents, both my brother and I, we got the gift of travel, basically. So my parents said to us, "Where would you like to go? Within reason, we'll fund a trip for your 21st birthday." So my brother went to Australia for his 21st, and 18 months later, I went to Fiji. And spent a week on Beachcomber Island, which, as a young person, is awesome. Yeah, it's lots of beer, lots of partying. It was really good fun. I met for the first time lots of people from overseas. Had and some lifelong friendships. There's people I still know today. And I came home with 4 people in tow, who all came to stay at my mother's place, mum and dad's place. 2 guys from Norway and 2 girls from Hawaii. And then like a week later, the Canadians arrived and some more Americans. So these people, this is long before Facebook and all these social media. Probably thankfully, because there were no photos involved either. But I've lost touch with some of them, but still have connections with others.
Yeah.
And they opened the door for, it was like Pandora's box being opened, and travel exploded. I got the bug big time.
Right.
And yeah, it was always a matter of money after that. So I worked and got a number of different jobs. Moved to Paihia for, this is a good job.
Oh, yeah?
I went to my mother has always looked out for her sons, right?
Yeah.
And she used to work at a place called Payless Plastics.
Oh, I remember. Yes.
Yeah. And
wow.
it was like a draw. It was like the warehouse of its day, right?
Yes,
Everybody would go there.
Yeah.
And she met this guy who was starting a business in Paihia called Jet Ski Safaris. And they were looking for somebody that had ridden a jet ski. Now, the year before, my brother and I had gone to America and the US for, I think we were there for 6 months.
Wow.
We bought an old bomb of a car.
Yeah.
And in Canada, and we drove 10,000 miles right the way down to Mexico and back again. Sold it back at the same dealer.
Yeah.
I think we cost us $200 in profit and loss.
Yeah.
And we did 10,000 miles in that. So we had a great experience. And when we were there, the person who cut my hair in Whangarei,
yeah,
her brother lived on an island called Catalina Island off the coast of LA.
Okay.
So we went to visit the brother.
Yeah, as you do.
And he was the caretaker of the Long Beach Yacht Club's private bay on Catalina Island.
Oh,
rich as rich people.
Yeah.
And he had a Kiwi mate who lived in the main city, Avalon, who had a jet ski barge where it was like a pontoon in the harbour. You go out in a little boat, you get on a jet ski and you zap around on these jet skis. I'd never ridden a jet ski before. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That wasn't our job. Our job was cleaning the bilge, which was the worst job I've ever had. We would come out completely head to toe covered in oil and rust, and it was horrendous. But we did get to go for a swim and ride on the jet skis afterwards. Yeah. So when this guy talked to my mother was like, "Oh, my son, he can ride jet skis." So I went and met Rod in Paihia. Our interview was get on the jet ski and ride at Opua and ride upriver. So not out into the harbour.
Yeah.
Towards Kawakawa.
Yeah.
We got within about 200 metres of Kawakawa.
Wow.
At, I would say, 25 kilometres per hour on a jet ski. The river getting narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower. And it was such fun. It was a real blast. I didn't crash. I didn't die. I got the job. I had an amazing summer riding jet skis in the Bay of Islands, taking people out around, right out to Roberton Island, and the Black Rocks, all over the show. It was awesome.
So, Paihia, how long were you doing the jet ski job in Paihia for?
Not incredibly long. I was, at that time, I don't know if I'd started or just about to start a course at the North Tech, in environmental and conservation studies.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did that for a year.
Yeah.
And after that summer. And then I think I got to the end of that and discovered another course. And that was in Auckland, doing a diploma in outdoor recreational leadership. Because I'd always been in the outdoors as well.
Okay.
I did a lot of hiking and stuff. I was in the training corps, as we
training corps,
earlier.
ATC.
Yeah, heavily into my abseiling and things like that. So I did 2 years in AUT in Auckland, or AIT as it was back then, and specialised in climbing, rock climbing, kayaking, sea kayaking. And one point we had to do a 2-week work experience thing.
Okay.
All my friends, my classmates, they went to, Ferg's kayaks and local mountain bike shops. And
yeah.
And I thought, no, do better than that. So I rang Raging Thunder in Cairns in Australia, one of the biggest rafting companies in Australia, and I went there for 2 weeks, and that was pretty awesome. I kayaked every river that they went on. Rafted every river they went on.
Yeah.
Did inflatable rafting.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you ever get a chance, 2-person inflatable kayaks is the most fun you'll have in your life. It was brilliant. Did jet boating, hot air ballooning, all for nothing. It was brilliant.
Wow.
I think the only work I did, I repaired some life jackets and I did a survey for them.
Tough.
Yeah, so
That survey would have been challenging.
So that's that was a good score. And I had an Australian girlfriend at the time, and so we lived together over there for a little while, and that was really cool. And I think that opened another Pandora's boxes. A lot of these boxes open around the world.
Yeah.
To
like
tourism.
Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah. So that took me away from virtually ever working in retail again into another passion, which is tourism and people. You know, it's the same with the portraiture. It's people. It's the one-on-one with people,
connecting with
connecting.
them.
It's telling stories. I love telling stories. I love engaging, telling the history of New Zealand, the mythology of New Zealand, showing them our beautiful country.
Definitely.
That sort of connection of story, scenery, nature also comes into all my art. So it's you can't separate them.
Yeah.
You can't separate the beliefs and the way you feel about something like that. You can't take them apart, I don't think, anyway.
Yeah, and you know, if your time learning Māori and New Zealand history was anything sort of similar to mine, it was very piecemeal, and if we wanted to learn anything, we would have to go out and find it ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty lucky because that year I did in third form was really quite good.
Oh,
and it was
good.
We had Māori teachers.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was much of a syllabus per se, so it was taught from their perspective, and that was very valuable. And then when I was doing the conservation environmental studies, we actually went to Ruapekapeka. We went to the church up by Kaikoui that was the start of the Northland Walls. We went to one of the huge big mud eyes on one of the volcanic cones up there.
Yeah.
And that was all really cool. So we went there. We went to those places. We walked in the places where the battles were. And that was very, very cool and deep.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah,
very
it was
powerful.
Very powerful. And so I often have discussions with my mother about history, and I think a lot of people in her generation were taught a completely different lessons, and you can't blame that on anybody. Well, the teachers perhaps, but thankfully we've changed a lot. And my kids come home; they're both very Pākehā. Their mother is English, so and they're singing Māori songs. They're talking Māori a lot. They're taught a lot in school. One's in intermediate, one's at primary school. And I think that's very powerful. I think it's making New Zealand more unique.
Yeah, definitely.
It gives us a point of difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it builds a lot of equity as well.
Yeah.
Because it was a conversation that producer Andrew and I had where, a lot of the Māori, the stories would get passed down through the generation, but that oral history is kind of dying off. It's not happening as much as it used to, which is a real shame. It's absolutely criminal. We talked with Tihei's uncle, and we shot a music video, and the gentleman we shot it for, Tihei, lives in Tikau, and we happened to go and have a bit of a korero with his uncle, essentially the guy that raised him, and he was telling us all of these wonderful stories about the region and the history. And I just said to these guys, we need to roll on this because this is some really important stuff. We may not get it again, but yeah, that oral tradition, it's very much a dying art.
Yeah, I had a really cool experience not long ago. I'm a descendant of Ebenezer and Sarah Ann Carter, who came to Mangapai in
Oh wow!
1859.
Yeah.
And I've got their Bible from when they arrived.
Oh, from wow.
Sarah Ann's Bible, and in it there's a story about when they arrived and them and the other families that arrived in that area were the first white people there.
Yeah.
And they were sharing a boat with a young Maori chief called Hone Te Horo.
Okay.
Hone Te Hori, sorry. And he carried one of their children, Herbert, ashore and patted him on the head and called him his mokopuna.
Wow.
Fast forward 160 odd years.
Yeah.
I put out a Facebook post not long ago looking for other descendants of the Carters. And a woman called Carol Hemara wrote back to me and said, on our land is the gravestone of Ebenezer Carter.
No.
And about 3 weeks ago, I went out to that gravestone, and Carol and Jack took me down through bush track, right down to the riverside. And there in the undergrowth was this tombstone to Ebenezer Carter, who was not the father, but one of the sons, so Herbert's brother.
Yeah.
But I'd been to their mother and father's gravestones in Springfield and Mangapai, but I didn't know about this one.
Wow.
And it was very cool that we were connected by the whenua.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful, and I really thank them for that.
Yeah.
It was a really cool thing to be able to do. And when we're all the same, we talked about family and connection and land and our shared history with the land in the last 160 years and longer. I think I had a talk with somebody that I took an Iwi photo of at the Pacifica Festival 2 weekends ago. Yeah. And he was saying that one of the most important things that he teaches his kids is whakapapa and about your connection with your ancestors. Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of that with my own family tree, and I think I can get back to about 1700, late 1600s.
Wow.
In some lines of the family.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Really very, very British. That's the only downside. I don't know why I'm saying it's a downside. 3% Scandinavian, though, so we've got to find that
there we go.
Viking heritage there
That's
somewhere.
It. Yeah.
I'm sure of it. But I wish I hope to find a way that I can put my whakapapa into my art as much as Māori can put their whakapapa into their art. Because I could go to North Tech and do the carving courses and things they have out there, but I don't feel that that's my place because it's not my heritage. Yeah, I'd love to be able to find a way to be as passionate about the European heritage that's in New Zealand as well, because I think that we can't tear apart the nation that we have, but we should celebrate all parts of it. I think. And
you can't discount one over another.
No,
equally, they're equally important. And as as essentially borders disappear and we become a country that has a lot more ethnic diversity, all that does is just it opens things up.
I love it. I mean, at the Pacifica Festival, it was awesome. Yeah. People from just about I'm sure probably every Pacific Island nation there, and lots of locals from Whangarei as well, and it was really cool. Everybody smiley, happy, friendly. Didn't matter where you were from. Everyone was welcome. That's another kudos to the Hihiawa Cultural Centre that's down there. Yeah. I really like that place. I have some photos in there on display.
That's cool.
And that's I love their attitude.
Yeah.
To the people that that come and visit Whangarei.
Yeah.
I wish them all power.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, we've had some very diverse guests on. So, it was funny when producer Andrew and I were sort of talking about starting, this podcast. We wanted to make sure that it was going to be as wide open as possible. And I had originally, for me, it was like, well, let's do, like, in art, you don't see race, right? Race and gender aren't a thing. It's, is your art good? Is your art not good? But I mean, for me, it was like, let's do actors and musicians and all that sort of stuff. And producer Andrew was like, well, why can't we do tattooists? Why can't we do, people that do interesting things with food or graffiti?
Yeah.
Why are we limiting ourselves? And it's like, okay, cool. And that just fundamentally changed how I thought of things. And having such a large cultural diversity in Whangarei massively helps as well. We've had some, who have we had? We've had some people, shout out to Sandeep Dewan, who is from Chandigarh in India, and that's it's an absolutely beautiful place. But then we've had people from Netherlands and Italy, just all over, and they've all ended up here. And it's like, how did we get here? They're the most amazingly talented people, but when you start sitting down and talking with them, then you get to find out the real good stuff. So you're doing the tourism thing for what, a number of years, or?
Yeah, I worked for a company called Kiwi Experience, which is still a huge conglomerate now. Drove tour coaches around and around and around New Zealand as a 26-year-old. That was a lot of fun, for all manner of reasons.
No, sorry everyone, this is my child deciding that it's important to video call me right now. So no, Sean, I love you. If you watch this podcast, I am interviewing. Dad's busy.
So I did that for about 18 months, and then I fell in love. French-Canadian girl, Pascal.
Ooh la la.
Gorgeous. So I went to Europe, obviously. She was in Canada, but she was working. So I went to Europe, to Britain, where my brother and sister-in-law lived.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked there as a carer for disabled people.
Oh, wow.
For a number of years.
Yeah.
Lived and worked with a guy who had a spinal break.
Okay,
completely tetraplegic. It was very rewarding. I really enjoyed that job. He was a super nice guy. And saved up my money, went to Canada.
Yes.
Spent Christmas with Pascal and her family, with the hope of starting our life together.
Mm-hmm.
And she dumped me.
Oh.
So that it was good Christmas up until then.
Good
and
story.
Then it was disastrous. So I went back to England and with my tail between my legs, and I was reading the TNT magazine. If you've ever been in England, I don't even know if it still goes, but it was like the Bible for backpackers.
Oh, yeah,
Aussies and Kiwis.
Yeah.
It had everything: gigs, cheap places to drink, accommodation, jobs, everything. And I was leafing through there, and I saw this company which had the same font as Kiwi Experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it said Stray Experience. I was like, what's that? So I went to their offices and walked in the door, and there was my boss from New Zealand, and there was my other boss from New Zealand. And they'd sold their shares in New Zealand and gone over and started this Stray Experience, which was buses in England and Ireland and trains around Europe.
Oh, that's amazing.
3 days later, I left on my training trip on the trains around Europe. I got 9 days into the 18-day training trip, and they'd run out of guides, so they picked me, and I had to start tour guiding in Europe, never having been to half of the countries, let alone cities, with paying customers.
Yeah.
It was ride by the seat of your pants, make it up as you go along, use every story you had and every tool you had in your tour guide's toolbox. Yeah. It was immense fun. I loved it. I did it for 8 years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I got to the point where I was training all the guides. I was the sales manager. I did all sorts of things. I loved it. It was a really, really awesome job. And unfortunately, it went bust after a long period of time.
Oh, that's dumb.
Yeah. And I tried naively to start my own version.
I mean, why not?
Why not? Came back to New Zealand, made a bit of money, went back over again, tried to start my own business, had no money, had nowhere near enough money.
Yeah.
Failed completely. I did 3 tours, I think, with people, but then had to give up, ran out of money. And I think I was 2 days away from being on the streets with no money in my pocket.
Yes.
I was probably depressed. I hadn't called for emergency home money.
Oh, mum and dad.
The bank of mum and dad.
Yep.
I saw an advert in the TNT. It said, "Can you drive trucks?" Yes. Can you start today? Yes. Can you be here? Which was literally across the river from where I was.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I rang them, I walked across the river. It was a TV set for Holby City, and they needed somebody to drive a truck with the camera equipment.
Yeah.
I had camera experience. I had all the things that this guy needed and wanted. I did not have a UK driver's license. I had a New Zealand driver's license.
That never stops any Kiwi.
Which wasn't a barrier to him. It was to the police when they stopped me a few years later, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, I started. The job included accommodation and included 2 meals a day.
Oh, wow.
I landed on my feet like a pig in a
That's
big mud.
winning at life.
It was really very, very fortunate. And then I did that job for various different companies for 6 years, and it was very cool. If you've never been involved in the film industry, it looks very glamorous from the outside. It really is not.
No.
It's an awful lot of waiting.
Yeah.
Awful lot of just sitting around twiddling your thumbs. And as a truck driver, you would be waiting all day for your moment of glory, which often never came. And then when everybody wrapped, you would pack everything up and drive to the next location and then set everything up. I think the most hours I did in a day in a week was 100 hours of working and then driving.
Wow.
Very illegal. It was a very cowboy industry back then.
Yeah.
You had 2 logbooks.
The ones the police saw, then the real ones. Yeah.
And but it was really interesting work, and I got to see and do some amazing things. The best thing about the film industry for me was the access it gave you. You know, I've sat in the Lord Privy Council's High Court judge's seat. Order,
in London. With the wigs.
I didn't have the wig, but
yeah,
they would have probably had one on a normal day.
Wow.
And walked all around the corridors of. I've been behind the scenes in Buckingham Palace when Daniel Craig and the Queen was filming their segment for the Olympics.
Yeah.
I've done night shoots in Budapest with Brad Pitt and drunk vodka afterwards. I've drunk champagne with Johnny Depp at the wrap of Pirates of the Caribbean. I did karaoke with Tom Cruise in Spain. You know, it's too surreal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I've listened to Woody Allen play clarinet. You know, it's been very, very weird looking back on it. And
we did say eclectic.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And you know, I spent 3 months in Morocco filming Prince of Persia with Jake Gyllenhaal, and winters, and you know, Tom Cruise in the movie Night and Day.
Yep. With Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, he gets shot and he falls off a building in Salzburg.
Yep.
Boom. He did that stunt 3 times.
Okay.
The third one he really threw himself in, and that's the one that made the cut. He did some stunts all himself.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing to watch. So he's on like a wire.
Yep.
He hits the building. They've got some pads, and then they lower him down onto the back of my truck. So I'm like, hi, Tom. Hi, guys. I'm going to go and do it again. He runs back up and does it again. So, yeah, that was pretty surreal.
Yeah.
And, then we drove from Salzburg to Seville, and it took us 2 days to drive. And then shot all the scenes in Spain as well.
Wow.
It's just really crazy. You didn't know what you were going to be doing one day to the next.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one question, and then because we could dive into this for hours, because for let's say 90% of the people, they're never going to get a chance to meet a Tom Cruise, a Johnny Depp, Daniel Craig, Jake Gyllenhaal, those guys. What would you say if you had to pick one moment or one story where you really have to pinch yourself and go, how the fuck did someone from Whangarei end up here? What would that one story or one moment be?
There's a lot.
I can imagine. That'll be separate podcast series that we release.
Yeah, I think probably I mentioned to this off air earlier. I was in Ouarzazate in Morocco.
Yep.
And there's a huge French Foreign Legion fort there.
Yep.
And we had a crowd of maybe 200 extras. We had 5 cameras. We didn't have enough camera operators, so they dragged me out of the camera car. That's what you call the truck that holds the cameras. And I had to do the clapperboard. It's a big clapperboard, not just a little one you see on the TV, but probably 2 feet long.
Oh, wow.
With a big, because the microphones needed to hear the
Yeah.
clap. And so I had to, there were 5 cameras and I was the 5th camera, so I had to wait on the microphone, one first camera, second camera, 5 camera mark. And I did my big clap and looked at the clapperboard, and Jake Gyllenhaal's nose was about 2 centimeters away from the clapper. If I had moved it, I would have hit him. And sorry, Jake. And scurried out of this crowd of 200 people. We got it in one take, so that was good. And we moved on after that. But that was pretty surreal.
Celebrities aside, and as someone who would be normally very, very starstruck and be like, oh my God, tell me about the stars. We're not here to talk about Tom Cruise. We're here to talk about you. Now, for everyone that's watching, I'm going to do something very, very cool. So when we met at Artbeat, which was only a few weeks ago, I was instantly drawn to a piece that you had. And it is this one here. Oh, actually, I'm going to hold it up to my camera. Is that the right side, Lee, or is it the other side? It's this side? Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So this is now I've got to make sure I get this right. This is the Vitruvian Man from Leonardo da Vinci, but with Wall foot rot as the correct representation. Now, for those of you that don't know, Murray Ball is from Gisborne. I'm from Gisborne. I knew Murray growing up as a kid. Nice guy. So for me, this really struck a chord. Now, this is just one of many different things that you do, right? Because you take, as we said earlier, you take, very familial things and you repurpose them in your design and style. So I've got this here. Have you got anything else in your little portfolio? Because I'm going to put this on the ground. Because this is where it gets exciting. So what we have here is we have some art that's been done that's been on a very high quality paper that's been hand stained with tea. Is it tea?
Tea to get the aging right.
Tea to get the aging. So this is going to be wicked.
This is my take on Cat Noir, the famous cabaret poster from Paris.
Yep, Possum Noir.
Possum Noir.
Are we getting it in the wide? A little bit. Where do we need it to go? Lift it up. Yeah. So there we go. There's that one there. So for those of you that are listening, first off, I'll say that's very unfortunate, because this is some amazing stuff. So we've got Possum Noir, which is very, very cool. So we'll pop that. Actually, we might pop that on that side. And yes, look at this. He's just bought a collection.
I just
orders are available if anyone wants to purchase one in the studio tonight.
A brand new website just being launched today. Actually,
yes,
this stuff on it.
Alan Lee Main.
No, Graeme
Lee Main. .com. There's the shop section there. Very affordable prices.
This is my interpretation of the Great Wave by Hokusai. So this, basically what I do is, on some of these anyway, I source the original work, and then I make it more uniquely New Zealand. Yeah. So in this one, you'll notice instead of Mount Fuji in the background is whangarei heads. Instead of the fishing canoes that rode the wave in the original is an immigrant ship called the Etripe, which actually brought some of my ancestors to New Zealand.
Now, because we're a podcast, we do both video and audio, we're going to do some technical state-of-the-art zooming so we can get nice and close. Here we go. There we go. We zoom in, we zoom out. That's why I love the rocking chairs.
Yeah, so I've tried to make that one in particular as close to the appearance of a woodcut, which the original would have.
That's
amazing. I spent quite a bit of time trying to get them authentic to the appearance of the original.
I love the people you've got. They're just kind of like that guy hanging on for dear life while he tries to get that sail under control. It's brilliant. And then you've got what look like the monks. Or I'm sure are actually missionaries. I'm not monks, but they're on the boat as well. That's very cool.
And then the Possum Noir. I actually went to Paris. This is going to make you more jealous, probably, for the Rugby World Cup last year as a tour guide. So they paid me to go. It was great. And on one of my days off, I went to the museum at Marmont where the original was kept. Yeah. So I took a photograph of it. This is the same size as the original. So I always try and do them the same size as the original, give you that same scale and feel. The main, or one of the main reasons for me doing, it's called after. So when an artist is influenced by another artist, usually they'll put their name after, in this case, Steinlen, and that way you're not plagiarizing the work. Right. You're being...
It's a homage?
Yeah, I think it's very much a homage. I only do artists and pieces of art that I really love. And most of them I have seen. So I've seen the Great Wave in the British Museum. I've seen that in the Marmont Museum. This one is in the Tate Modern in London. This is my take on Roy Lichtenstein's Wham. On my website, you can see the original as well. Yeah. I've put them alongside so you can see that it's referenced by that artist. Wow. So, not only Roy Lichtenstein, but the original cartoonist who he was influenced by but didn't credit.
Hello.
Ivan.
Yay.
Let me have a look.
Producer Andrew's giving me these shady eyebrows.
Ivnovich and the Maurice. What's his last name? Sorry, I haven't got glasses on.
That's all right.
Maurice, who designed the Buzzy Bee in the 1930s.
Yeah, wow.
So, and this one says buzz, 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 buzz in the speech bubble, but the more updated version says, at what point does art become appropriation? Roy? ? Roy.
That's great. Wow.
Because I think it's important that if we are referencing other works, that we do take great care in making sure that we're telling people that
you're faithful as well. You want to have a faithful representation, but you also need to acknowledge the original source.
The Murray Ball, Ballian Man, I called it, other than Vitruvian Man. I was a great fan of Murray Ball. Yeah. I grew up with him. I read his comics every day in the Northern Advocate. I have all his annuals at home still. Wow. I drew pictures of him when I was a kid. I used his... I wrote to him in the 80s to get permission to use Pew as a mascot for my ATC squadron. And I really, really hope that the Ball Foundation for Our Flats people don't take offense at me using him, because he's a cultural icon in New Zealand.
Yes, and I don't imagine that there would be anyone that would be like, ugh, no, profiteering. It'd be like, no, this is actually a tribute to a New Zealand hero.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean, whoa, Murray was amazing, and he was such a humble man as well. So,
well, the thing I like about doing this style, and this is my way of learning how to do art. This is the first one I did. I I cut my foot open with a chainsaw. Don't recommend it. I was in bed for a couple of weeks. My wife.
I feel like there's a real story here.
My wife bought me a tablet.
Right.
And this is the first.
And that's
time
how you cut your foot?
No. This is the first time I got back into art.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So through misery comes joy. And I'd always had this image in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I drew it and adapted it. And then at the end I thought, I wonder if Buzzy Bee will sue me or something like that. So I searched Buzzy Bee copyright. And do you know, and I'm not lying here, I'm not making this up, I found virtually exactly the same image that somebody else had done in New Zealand.
Really?
And I wrote to that artist. I'm sorry, it slipped my mind what his name was, but it is in the
It's on the website.
It's on the website.
Yep.
I wrote to him and said, look, I haven't copied you. I'm sorry. I just thought I'd tell you. I drew pretty much exactly what you've done.
Wow.
And there's no such thing as an original idea in art.
No, yeah.
And the reason I'm doing after is because I don't know how to do art. I'm making it up as I go along, and I'm teaching myself.
Yeah.
And I've taught myself Photoshop. I've taught myself I'm teaching myself how to paint.
Yeah.
I am currently a week into my first ever oil paint.
Oh, wow.
Oil painting, where I'm talking about taking a big step. I'm trying to do a Dali.
Holy shit.
Yeah, nothing like jumping at the deep end.
I was going to say, start off with someone easy, why don't you?
Yeah. Sorry,
I got it.
Down.
Yeah. Now, there is one that's just sort of caught my eye that's in your folio at the moment. It's got some bold lettering at the bottom. That would be that one. And I just find... I tell you, I'll hold... Do you want to hold that? You want to throw it to your camera? You throw it up to your camera.
So this was... A few years ago, we had a number of politicians change leadership.
Yes. Yeah, we cycled through them for a wee while.
They were all in opposition at the time,
Yep.
and then this particular woman caught my eye, and I didn't really like her. And fortunately, she's in the current government. But I was drawn straight away to the Hope poster of Obama.
Obama's Hope.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a great poster.
It is.
And I thought, well, no, this image needs something.
We don't need to say who it is. We just throw the picture up.
So this is my nope.
Yep.
I kind of suppose I'm showing my political colours a little bit with
That's
that one.
okay. That is fine. We all, the good thing about this podcast is, we're not going to, it's done.
It's done.
We're not going to dwell on it.
It's not actually on the website, that one. So if anybody wants it to buy it, I can print them for you. You
Now,
just have to write to me.
Can people contact you through the website?
Of course they can.
There we go.
Yep,
So
totally.
send an email. You might get a one-of-a-kind special.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask a follow-up question.
Sure.
Just to be a little bit more provocative, because I see Albert there laughing. Is there anyone that you'd replace or update with nowadays?
Oh, as far as the note, actually, I'm. Hang on, I might fish in down here.
I feel like that needs to be asked.
There are a few. Oh, there's all sorts in here. There's my sketch of my Dali. That's what I've done so far, and it's gonna look something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna hold that up. Yeah, hang on, guys. I'll get to it. There you go. It's wicked. It's very cool, eh?
Russell. So this is another variation on the Hope poster, modelled very much on Dick Frizzell, but the four square man.
I gotcha. Oh, throw that.
No.
That's cool. Yeah, I know. It's wicked, eh?
And then one that's perhaps more on the political scale, especially quite topical in current events because she just became the leader of her party, co-leader. My Viva Chloe, which is a take on the Che Guevara poster from 1968.
Che Guevara. Is that how you say his name?
Guevara, I think,
Guevara?
but I
Yeah.
could be completely wrong.
Oh, classic. Now, the great thing is you've brought such an amazing amount of work in here, which is absolutely phenomenal, and people can all grab this just by getting in touch with you off the website, yeah?
Yep. All of this, I think there's about 11 pieces that I've finished so far. There's another 30 in my brain, which are fighting to get out and struggling for time to do so.
It's always about time.
Yeah, that's another one I've done, which ruffled a few feathers at the.
Did it
Art
really?
Beat. I was quite surprised.
At
So,
Heartbeat.
this
Interesting.
is just your standard map of New Zealand. Although, so this is taken from a French copy by the mapmaker Bernard of Cook's original map
Yes.
from.
Chatham. Banks Peninsula being Bangkok, Banks
exactly.
Island. Yeah.
Banks Island and the Stewart Island joined up.
Joined.
So
Classic.
I just made some obvious observations about this map.
Yep.
That before Cook came, before Tasman came, there were people who were already here who
Yes.
had named everywhere in New Zealand.
Yes,
who had
they had.
been everywhere in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So why did Cook feel the need to give everywhere new names? So I painstakingly went round Cook's map and researched the original names, or as
Wow.
close to the
Yeah.
original names as I could.
Yeah.
And so I've replaced all of the names with the Te Reo names. And I've put up the top there that the map of Aotearoa, discovered by Kupe, visited by James Cook. And then just a little reference to the methodology behind that.
Love it.
So I've sold a couple of these.
Good.
And they're a bit bigger when they're the life-size version, that the same as the original.
Like A2?
Not a lot bigger than this.
Are they an A2?
Just a slightly squarer shape, so they wouldn't fit on an A3 page.
Yeah.
But I've printed them at the actual size. They look really great framed.
Yeah,
And,
nice.
I'm going to do in the 1830s. I'm not going to mispronounce his name, so I'm just going to say the first Māori to go to Great Britain went on a ship and visited England. I want to do a map of him discovering England and giving Māori names to all the places that he visited.
That would be cool.
So if there's any Te Reo speakers out there who would love to help me with that, I would be really keen to collaborate.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've had a few people come on here that have got sort of an extensive Te Reo background. We've had people that have, like authors that have worked quite closely with Te Reo people. So, shout out to anyone that has got some contacts. Please reach out to Graeme through his website. That'd be cool. Have you got apart from Artbeat, do you exhibit or anything along those lines?
I've only really today is the first day I've put this part of my work online
on the website.
So Artbeat was the first time anybody saw it.
Wow.
Today is the first time it's gone live on the
Congratulations.
internet. Thank you.
Very cool.
I have other stuff on my website, which is probably what I have sold more of, and that's photography. That's so about 3 years ago, my family and I were in our lounge, and we had a thud on the window.
Okay.
We went outside, and there was a wax eye had flown into the window and killed itself, breaking its neck. I have two small daughters, and we went out and we had a look at it, and I picked it up, and the girls patted it, and I thought, this is so beautiful. I'd never seen one that close before.
Yeah.
I'd have a lot of contact with birds. My father used to have an aviary. So before we buried it, I photographed it with macro photo equipment. So we got very close. I actually have...
You have the photo? Wow. Okay, this is going to be cool. He's going to sift through. So, for those of you that are listening, oh my goodness.
So I don't know whether the camera will pick that up.
Graeme has brought a whole lot of photos in. Editor Lee, which camera am I going to be best to hold it up to, please? So hold it up to mine? Okay, cool. All right, I'm actually going to...
Yeah, so this is a wax eye, and it's such a small bird. It's less than 5 centimeters long, and the feathers don't look like feathers. They look like woven rope, or perhaps seaweed, or they don't look like feathers. And I was really taken and drawn by that.
They look like bristles.
Yeah, it's you can't really see how that could cause a bird to fly. I know those aren't his wing feathers, but
Wow.
I was really, really drawn to it, and that started me down the road of, okay, I need to find more birds. So a little bit morbid, but I would stop the car anywhere I saw a dead bird on the side of the road, pukekos, kahu,
Wow.
seagulls, all sorts, any native bird. And I've probably photographed 20, some live.
Yeah.
Live birds are harder because they move. You can't often get that close to them. The zoo's a great place for it because you can get close.
Yeah.
I've also formed a connection with Whangarei Bird Recovery Centre.
Oh, wow.
And Robert Webb out there. And so donate a small portion, or a portion of my profits to them.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
For all the feathers they sell.
Yep.
So they're all on, well, not all, some are on exhibition at the Hihiawa Cultural Centre in Whangarei.
Nice.
And I've sold a few of those online. They look magnificent big.
I imagine that'd be unbelievable.
My
huge.
favourite is Tui, which I don't have with me today.
It's okay.
But
That's
it's online.
Cool.
The colours are fantastic. And the thing I'm attracted to with the feathers is that we don't often see our native birds.
No.
We hear them.
Yep.
We see kiriru, tui a lot, fantails, which are really hard to photograph.
Yeah. Sprightly little buggers.
Yeah. But we don't see. We hear a lot of the others, and we don't see a lot of them in Northland, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So getting the ability to see them up close and personal is a really, really rewarding thing. It's a beautiful thing. I'd love it if anybody ever hits a bird or a bird flies into the window and dies, they should call Doc.
Yes.
And Doc will take care of them, and then they will pass them on to the local iwi.
Yep.
Often they're used for weaving, things like that, for the feathers.
Yeah.
If I could join that chain
that'd be
for
amazing.
a few moments to take a photograph, so that people can see these beautiful animals.
Yeah.
Just in that one more stage, I'd love it if people get in contact with me about that, because I'll travel wherever I need to go. There's hundreds of birds in New Zealand that I've never had the opportunity to get up close and personal to. I'm always on the lookout.
Yeah. And look, I think it's there's death is a natural part of life.
Yeah.
I think it's only morbid if you kill the birds.
Yeah. Which
is what you're not saying.
No,
you're not saying that.
No. I'm very much a greenie, and I love our nature. I do so the feathers and also native flowers.
Yeah.
Which people don't even realise we have. Well, other than kowhai and purakawa, we have so many.
There's more?
Oh, yes. So the problem with flowers is they're quite brief flowering period.
Yeah.
They're all over the country.
Yeah.
I don't have a unlimited budget. I have 2 small children, and I'm the stay-at-home parent. So all these are quite, fundamentally make it quite hard to achieve. But I've got, my favourite flower is probably the pururi.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful. It's a little small flower, but it's really pretty. And hebes, we have thousands of species of hebe.
Hebes.
And
I know what the heebie-jeebies are, but
you probably have them
Dad
in the
jokes.
garden. Yeah. But I love getting, again, so close that you can't really gauge what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on ways to do that, because it's quite hard to do macro photography all in focus. You do what's called photo stacking, where you take maybe 100 photos. The camera moves a fraction of a millimeter each time, and then the computer stacks all those photos together. So that's how I get the photos crystal clear, and it's a real passion project. Like all the art I'm doing, it's all just for my own enjoyment. If people like it and want to buy it, that's that's an icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It's really for me and to teach me. I up until maybe 2 years ago, this is where I get political.
Here we go. Here we go.
I had all my ducks in a row.
Yes.
My kids were at daycare and school. My wife is very well paid, and she has her own company. She had given me the blessing to follow my dreams, and I was going to go to North Tech to study art.
Okay. That's 2022, right?
I went to apply.
Yep.
The art course had disappeared off the website.
Yeah.
I was not happy.
No.
I actually cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was that upset.
Wow.
I had finally had the chance to realize my dreams,
Mm-hmm.
to pursue my passions after 30 years of putting it on the back burner.
Yeah.
Or not even thinking about it.
Well, no, because you didn't put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
You like left it behind.
Yeah, I'd left it behind.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very lucky when I was tour guiding. I went to most of the major art galleries in Europe
Yeah.
and in the States, and every time I was in a major capital, I'd go to their art museum. So I've
Yeah.
seen art from all over the world, and a lot of the art I do is informed by that.
Mm.
But I wanted to create my own art. And the thing that holds me back even now is I don't know how to. I don't know how to create these things. I'm teaching myself the techniques. But
Yeah.
there are people who have done it all before. And the other thing is, if you're in a group of people, a group of other students or other artists, you vibe off each other.
Absolutely.
You swap ideas.
Absolutely.
You almost, through osmosis, you gain
Yeah.
other people's knowledge and passion. And that's what I really was looking forward to about going to school. And I can't go to Auckland. I can't,
Oh,
I
no.
have a family, I have
Yeah.
commitments. Whangarei was going to be ideal. I wrote a rather impassioned post on Facebook, which got the advocate even rang me for an interview and stuff. It must have been pretty good. People from the tutors from the Polytech were on my side, and I had interviews with them as well. I think it was very short-sighted to close down that course. Especially, we live in Whangarei. We have the Hundertwasser Centre.
Yeah, we do.
Had not been opened at that stage.
No.
It was, art was coming to Whangarei.
Yep.
Art is now a big part of Whangarei.
Yep.
And we don't have anywhere for students to study.
I mean, having looked at Artbeat 2023, and having wandered around and kind of connected with a lot of people versus Artbeat 2024, this year was a completely different beast. Over a kilometre of artists and such an amazing space. And honestly, who would have thought that it will become and hopefully become one of the flagship
Oh, yeah, I think it was great.
pieces. It was so good.
The only problem with exhibiting is I didn't get to see anybody else's stuff. It was a real shame.
Yeah.
And I think I was told by the Polytechnic that they were going to concentrate on vocational professions.
Yeah, trades and stuff.
Trades,
yeah.
which is great.
Yep.
Now, at that time, my wife, who runs a cybersecurity company, employed 4 art graduates.
Huh.
The people who had gone to art school
Go figure.
and were former artists.
Yeah.
Because show me a website that doesn't have an artist involved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or here.
Yeah.
These guys are all arty people.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to be an artist to compose, to do anything, to write a sign, to format a newsletter, to do anything. You need an artistic bent.
Mm-hmm.
And the architects who build the new council building, to the people who design the logo for Polytechnic's new name. There's art everywhere. Art is all around us. You can't remove it from society.
No.
And, not funding it, not teaching the next generation, I think is really short-sighted.
Yep.
And I don't blame any particular party or anything like that. I just think it was narrow-minded. I think now they have lost those tutors, and that's a real shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I have to rely on YouTube and
Yeah.
to teach me.
Yeah, and that's always tough.
Yeah.
Graeme, thank you so much for coming in and sitting down with us. This has been amazing. It's been a while since we've had one of these really long podcasts, and this has been good, but there's so much. I feel like we've scratched the surface in some areas. So, we'd love to have you back on at some stage.
It'd be a pleasure.
But yeah, again, from myself and the team, thank you for coming in and just sharing with us. It's always good when artists bring art in as well. So yeah, much appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, there you go, everyone. That was Graeme Lee Main. Such a cool guy. We had a lot of fun. He was one of so his wife has also got her own podcast, which is very, very cool. And so he kind of knew what he was in for when he came and we met and we talked beforehand. It was great. So he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm prepared. I know what's going to happen." So I was like, "Cool, awesome." So we sat down and we sort of did the the pre-podcast chat, and man, he just belted out some amazing stories then. So I'm so glad he was able to share them with everyone. So hopefully you actually made it all the way through, because that little sequence where he talks about actually watch the rapid fire. There's a really good question there about does anything happen after death, and I think he takes that answer beautifully. Stephen Colbert and Keanu Reeves, well done, guys. I'm gonna flick to my camera. What was my one big takeaway? I always like to have a bit of a takeaway from the podcast. For me, it would probably be actually, you know what? It wasn't even in the podcast, and I'm going to do something I don't normally do. Hang on a second. So I've got these pre-interview questions that all our guests fill out, but he mentioned something, and I thought it was really, really important. Here we go. So one of the questions I always ask is, how did you come to be an artist? Have you always done your current outlet? So, if someone who's a sculptor, did they start off as sculpting, or did they start off as a musician or whatever? Graeme wrote, despite creating art for the best part of 50 years, I am still struggling to call myself an artist. I feel a bit like an intruder in a world full of very talented people. Now, have a look at his website, graemeleemain.com. And you be the judge, because honestly, some of the stuff that he showed us on the podcast tonight was absolutely amazing, and it was unreal. Really, really cool. He's got his photographic prints in there. He's also got his own artwork as well, so I highly recommend checking that out. If you're not already, please make sure that you follow us across our platforms. For video, it's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Northland Artists Conversation. And for audio, it is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Again, Northland Artists Conversation. Now, this is the part that I always love doing. If you are an artist, or you know someone that would love to come in and sit down and just shoot the breeze with me for hour and a half, 2 hours, we would love to hear from you. Please reach out to us. You can contact us by emailing hello@northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. Super simple. Excuse me. Bit of a burp. But yeah, look, we kept everything Northland Artists Conversation, so that way if you just go to Google and just type Northland Artists Conversation, well, you'll find us. I'm going to switch to my camera. So yeah, as I said, it's an interesting time. We're changing seasons. We've had Easter, lots of chocolate, and it's getting cooler. It's getting cooler, but a lot more interesting things are starting to happen. Hopefully by this time, and that will be, no, I'm not going to say anything, just in case, we have got a very big surprise coming up in May. And it's something that we've been working on now for nearly a year. So I'm very, very much looking forward to doing that, see what's involved in there. But hey guys, if you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in, joining us, sitting down, and being part of what we do. My name is Mark Kelly. On behalf of the whole Northland Artists Conversation team, and I do have pretty much the whole team here with me tonight, thank you very much for joining us on Northland Artists Conversation. We will see you guys real soon.